We remember the first time Luke Skywalker ignites that emerald blade in Return of the Jedi. Expectation, a promise fulfilled. But the true potency of that weapon is less a matter of geometry and plasma, and more a matter of meaning. The act of its creation, the deliberate choice to fashion a saber in his own image, is the signal that Luke had stepped beyond inheritance and into authorship. That choice unnerved Darth Vader. It shaped the dynamics of their final encounter, and later it echoed through the ruin of Luke's own temple. Today, our examination must begin with the simple proposition that Luke's saber is not merely a replacement blade. It is a declaration. It is the crystallized attunement of a Jedi who had to build himself as much as he built his weapon. To understand that declaration, we must first acknowledge what came before. For the first two films, Luke wields his father's weapon, the blue saber given to him by Obi-Wan. That hilt was a tether to a heroic past he only half knew, a physical link to a lineage he hoped to inhabit. It was the emblem of the farm boy stepping into a wider world. Cloud City changed everything. In that duel with Vader, Luke loses his hand, and his father's saber plunges into the abyss. The loss is simultaneously literal and symbolic. The tangible blade is gone, but more importantly, the last physical connection to Luke's idealized Anakin is severed. He learns, brutally, that his father is not the myth he carried, but a man corrupted by the dark side. That rupture becomes the catalyst for a different kind of apprenticeship, one in which Luke must define the Jedi he intends to be. To do so, he needs a weapon of his own making. Constructing a lightsaber is not a mere engineering task. It is a rite of passage. A Jedi does not simply assemble parts, they seek attunement with a Kyber crystal, and through that attunement, the weapon becomes an extension of intent. Here we must be precise, because the story branches depending on which archive we consult. We must acknowledge two realities: the older expanded universe, legends, and the current canon. They offer different mechanisms, but the same meaning. In Legends, the galaxy was raw and starving for Kyber. The imperial exploitation of known deposits and the erasure of Jedi lore left Luke improvising. Older accounts do not depict him as manufacturing a crystal in a blast furnace on Tatooine. Rather, they describe a Jedi humbly attuning himself to the best crystal he could find, and when necessary, adapting materials and technique. The result is the same: a saber that belonged to Luke because he had made the bond with it himself. In current canon, the arc is cleaner and better documented. Comics and tie-in material show Luke seeking out a raw Kyber and, through meditation and connection, seeing it resonate and finally bloom green. A deleted Return of the Jedi scene gives us a quiet visual, Luke in a Tatooine cave making final adjustments, but it does not literally show every step of construction. What matters across both timelines is this: Luke did not inherit that blade. He earned it. The process is both technical and spiritual. A private covenant between Jedi and Crystal. A brief parenthesis on production history is instructive. Early footage and practical concerns led to the choice of green for visibility against Tatooine's horizon. A filmmaking necessity fed back into myth and became a meaningful in-universe signifier. Lightsaber color is rarely accidental in Star Wars. It is a barometer of relationship and intent. Green has long been associated with Jedi, who emphasize thought, diplomacy, and the living force, the consular type exemplified by Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn. When Luke Skywalker's new blade ignites emerald, it is a signal. He is not simply following the guardian path his father trod, he is claiming a more contemplative course. That green blade tells us Luke has spent the months between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi tending his connection to the Force, not merely sharpening his reflexes. It is a statement of purpose. The Jedi he intends to be is one oriented toward balance, toward redemption and wisdom, rather than pure martial triumph. The color is therefore both aesthetic and philosophical, a visible shorthand for a shift in orientation. Symbolism does not preclude efficacy. Because Luke forged his own bond with his saber, the weapon functions as an unusually integrated instrument. The films plainly show his growth. On Jabba the Hutt's sail barge, he moves with calm, precise authority. At Endor, he fights with a mastery Darth Vader recognizes. Expanded sources, novels and comics across continuities, expand those feats and sometimes embellish them. Some portrayals emphasize incredible efficiency in battle, others are more restrained. We should be cautious about overstating specifics not present in the core films. What is indisputable is the arc. Luke matures from a reactive adolescent into a Jedi whose blade mirrors his intent and whose timing and judgment have become formidable. Vader himself acknowledges this in their final confrontation. Your skills are complete. That admission is not merely about technique. It is about a completeness of purpose that the green saber both symbolizes and facilitates. The deeper power of Luke's lightsaber lies in its psychological resonance, the way it reads to others. When Vader handles that hilt aboard the second Death Star II, the sight of a green blade in his hands is a small but seismic moment. The hilt echoes Obi-Wan Kenobi. The blade says something different. Vader perceives not only a competent duelist, but a Jedi who has chosen a path the Emperor Palpatine has not accounted for. The weapon becomes a measure of Luke's completeness and therefore a threat to the order Vader serves. That same symbolic currency later fractures into terror. In The Last Jedi, a brief, catastrophic moment changes everything. Haunted by visions of a possible future in which Ben Solo destroys all Luke holds dear, Luke ignites his green blade above his sleeping nephew. The blade's ignition, a reflex born of fear, is ambiguous in intent and devastating in effect. Ben wakes to a saber in his uncle's hand and interprets the act as betrayal. Whether Luke intended murder or only a terrifying warning is less important to the story than the outcome. A bond destroyed, a temple burned, a grandson lost to darkness. The green saber that once helped coax Anakin Skywalker back to the light becomes, in one instant, the instrument that shatters a new hope. This is precisely the point at which the idea of a saber as a mirror becomes literal. In canon, the blade can reflect a momentary faltering of will. In legends, the blade often reflected a maker's resourcefulness, a physical story of necessity. In either case, the weapon does not merely cut, it speaks. Luke Skywalker's green lightsaber is a dense artifact, technical, symbolic, psychological. It is a testament to choices made in the sands of Tatooine and the ashes of the galactic civil war with the Phalanx. It is a harbinger of what a Jedi Order, remade by necessity or by introspection, would look like. Which interpretation resonates with you more? The blade as a mirror of the soul, or the blade as a product of survival in a shattered galaxy? Name the most unconventional saber in the Chronicles and bind yourself to this holocron. Subscribe and continue the inquiry with us. From its making to its ignitions, Luke Skywalker's green lightsaber is less an instrument than a record. It records his severing of the past, his self-authorship, his mastery, and the catastrophic failure of a single frightened instant. Its true power is not purely kinetic. It is narrative. It inspired awe that turned a father back toward the light, and it inspired terror that created a dark apprentice. In the end, the saber's potency is the story it tells, of growth and failure, of intent and consequence, of how the light can both save and wound. That is the lesson embedded in Luke's self-made weapon, a lesson the Jedi have been learning for millennia, and one we are still unpacking today.